Let's take a look the way they line up now, the amended field for round number 3. Dick Johnson, pole position out of 1 in 54.06. 2, Peter Brock. From position number 3 is Jim Richards in the Nissan. Out of 4, Tony Longhurst in the Sierra. From 5, John Bowen, the second of the shell cars. Out of 6 is George Fury in the Nissan. From 7, Greg Hansford and Alan Moffat Sierra. From 8, Andrew Bagnall in the Sierra. 9 is Brad Jones, and rounding out the 10 is Colin Bond. Ready to go racing. Engines to full revs, and they're off and racing, and it's Brock and Johnson side by side. Jim Richards, a beautiful start. Down the inside comes Tony Longhurst. John Bowers, the next one, followed through by George Fury, and Greg Hansford away with them very, very smartly. Johnson and Brock go at it again. Into the carousel. Now they exit the turn. There's oil over the racetrack in a couple of spots here. We wait for their approach to come down to the bridge. There's Bond going through in the Celtic CXT Sierra. The position's the same, with Dick Johnson out in front and leading the race down into Hungry Corner.
Brad Jones is missing from the starting lineup. Michael, his car suffered some damage in the earlier incident. Some debris on the track, ruptured something in the underside of the car, and he's dropped oil on the track. The car can't run. He's got to make it interesting for the blokes that are out there.
There's Johnson coming down the roller coaster. Brock sets in for the draft through there. Back onto the start, finishing straight. There's the problem. The drivers will be facing the sun as they come down the front straight. Big cheer going out for Johnson. A lot of parochial Queenslanders here would like to see Johnson win this restart. But Brock holds in there for second. Alan Grice joins us.
30 minutes of racing is certainly going to have some different tactics. I guess some of them that may have been on harder tyres have now gone to a softer tyre. The evening's a little cooler now. And also a softer tyre is going to handle the oily conditions better. There's Brock smoking.
Yeah, already.
Left tyre, yeah.
Johnson going for broke. Coming up to Hungry Corner, the dip into the left-hander. Comes out of the turn on the run to the top of the hill at Motorcraft. Handy little gap at this stage after 2 laps over Peter Brock, and Brock is falling back slowly into the clutches of Tony Longhurst, and right behind Longhurst will be Jimmy Richards in the first of the Nissans.
So the story up front is much the same as it was before. Our Dulux race cam showing the sun in Peter Brock's face here as they come down the main straight, past the control tower, through the kink, heading into the bottom corner. This is where Terry Finnegan came unstuck in qualifying. Johnson pulling away, and look at Longhurst right on the tail of Peter Brock, anxious to get by.
Well, he's only got a half hour to try and haul back Dick Johnson as Tony Longhurst. And in order to do that, he has to try and get rid of Peter Brock very quickly. He was caught up behind him first time they tried to run the race for just on 8 laps. Down on the inside, under brakes, moment of truth for Peter Brock. Longhurst side by side as they come up to the top of Motorcraft Hill. Couldn't do it that time.
That's where Tony got him last time, and Peter was ready for it, I guess, and just pushed into the corner a little harder, but it certainly looks like the writing's on the wall. They're both obviously on soft tyres, I would say, and look at the lovely little gap that Dick's got now while they're fighting. And here comes Jimmy Richards.
It's again we've taken the Dulux Auto Colour race cam down through the kink on the front straight. And here comes Tony Longhurst down the outside. He's not going to pass there, but he's going to try and tuck in here. But Brock doesn't career out of the turn. He holds it in a very tight line, and that thwarts Longhurst yet again.
Jim's still in front of Bow, and that's surprising. Bow's got very strong power down the straight, but Jim's obviously doing the work around the back of the circuit.
Okay, they come to Hungry Corner yet again. Brock, Mobile Sierra running in second spot. Right behind him is Tony Longhurst, and being cheered on by a very big crowd here at Lakeside. That's how close they are as they come downhill now into the right-hander. Just a courtesy breathe for the motors, and then gun-ho all the way to the floor. Brock still being able to hold out Tony Longhurst as Johnson still continues to lead and pull away.
Yes, he came onto the corner, just came out of the corner a little better than Tony that time, and that helped him down the straight. Longhurst looks on the inside, but you can't get much closer.
Johnson with about a 1.7 second lead over this pair at the moment, and there is nothing between these two.
Coming down towards the bridge, they have really got away from Jim Richards at this stage. And there's one in problem, Gary Wilmington with the Commodore smoking, pulling to the right of the circuit. And Bob Holden staying out of harm's way too, gives them all a free run to the top of Motorcraft Hill. Down the hill this time. Longhurst closes yet again. Brock's car has got a good bit of top end down the start finishing straight. Back behind these two, Jim Richards, who has now a bit of a battle looming with John Bower.
Like sort of colour race cam again. Great pictures here from Lakeside late in the afternoon. There's the setting sun in the background. But the sun hasn't set yet on the battle between these two, Peter Brock and Tony Longhurst. They're just over 2 seconds in arrears now of race leader Dick Johnson. Alan Grice, would the decision to cut the race from an hour to 30 minutes have affected any decision on tyres as far as the teams are concerned?
Yes, may well have, Gary. Anybody that was looking to run the harder compound with now the race distance halved would certainly be going to a softer tyre. Also, they all knew that there was a fair bit of oil on the circuit, and a softer tyre handles that better than a harder tyre.
There's Johnson disappearing out of the bottom of the screen, followed by Brock, Longhurst, and here's another battle looming between Jim Richards and John Bower. Bower pulls out and has a look. Look at the car skate there.
The Nissan's getting quite wide down the straight.
Did you get the feeling he's playing defence here?
Yes.
And Bower is keeping the pressure on completely through the carousel yet again.
But it's a great situation for Dick now. He's got the break that he desperately needs, and while the fighting's going on, he's able to keep his car straighter and nicer.
Johnson untroubled up front. Two separate wars going on behind him. One between Brock and Longhurst, and this one between Richards and John Bower.
And John's very quick through there. I thought that that'd be an area that Jim would get away, but the power down of that Nissan is interesting, isn't it? It doesn't have the horsepower, but it actually the suspension of the motor car combined with its Yokohamas, it gets the power down and gets out of the corner. Now comes the sheer horsepower as Bower runs at him.
Well, Fred Gibson reckons that the Nissans get enough of a break. Oh, there goes Longhurst around Brock. He's been trying it for a while and finally succeeds.
Straight down the inside.
Now we'll see whether Longhurst can pull away from Peter Perfect as they come down beneath the bridge on the run to Hungary Corner. Now into the left-hander. Reverse camber corner. They get a bit twitchy coming out of there. Brock was twitchier than Longhurst that time.
Longhurst running with a new engine. They weren't satisfied with their race engine after the warm-up early today, and changed engines before the main race start.
Longhurst at this stage starts to pull away from Peter Brock.
And the gap between race leader Dick Johnson and Tony Longhurst in second spot is now 3.7 seconds.
Oh, Brock's gone. Straight out, tries to save it from the tyres. Allows through John Bower and also Jim Richards. It's almost like he dabbed the brakes and...
Yes, I think he locked one up.
Yeah.
And to unlock the brake, he had to unlock the wheel. He had to get off the brakes, and that's just put him off onto the dirt. But he's held it together nice and straight, and he's still in the motor race.
It also shows the mark of a good driver who was able to do that rather than run off as we've seen some of the others and run straight into the tyre wall.
Yes, certainly, or just sit there with the brake locked up and then destroy the tyre.
Bower having a go there at Richards over the top of the hill. And he's real close now as they set out onto the main straight.
This could be the one, Gary. This could be the lap.
Yes, he can't really... yes, I think Bower's got him this time. And beautiful run down the outside. So Johnny Bower now makes it up into third spot. Richard runs in fourth. Somariva has passed there in the BMW by Jim Richards. And there's Brocky now trying to deal with Somariva's BMW as they come down towards the bridge yet again.
John Bower, the Tasmanian Devil, winner of the opening round of the Touring Car Championship at Amaroo Park, and he was a third place getter behind team leader Dick Johnson at Symonds Plains. So he is the man who leads the Australian Touring Car Championship point score at this stage.
The top of Motorcraft Hill and down the other side. come through the corner. Just recapping the placings for you. On our Caltex race score, Dick Johnson is your race leader. Tony Longhurst runs in second. John Bow now up to third. What a drive. Jimmy Richards is in fourth. And Peter Brock, 05, is number 5. John Bow, definitely a man on the move in this race. 34 years of age today, birthday boy from Devonport in Tasmania. He's been able to move up into third place. Right behind John, though, that battle still looms between Jimmy Richards and Peter Brock.
Yes, Brock, after running off the circuit there and dropping back to 5th place, is giving Jim Richards a bit of a torrid time now.
Bow looks very good.
He does. Just look at the sun. Pretty tough for the drivers. Coming past the start-finishing line at the moment. There's Peter Brock making a lunge here on Jimmy Richards. They take the left-hander of the King. Brock comes down the outside, but that's not really the line for here. Tucks it in tight, try and find if Jim leaves a little opening here on the inside. You're following it all with our Dulux Auto Colour race cam.
Certainly illustrates the handling of the Nissan through the corners there, doesn't it?
Yes, and that initial power down that it has. It actually jumps out of a quarter better than the Sierra, but then the horsepower takes over. But both of those drivers are very quick down that back straight. I think Dick Johnson, Jimmy Richards and Peter Brock, in my view, are clearly quicker down that straight.
Andrew Bagnall, problems with his car. It's become a little smoky. That was the problem we saw last time the cars came down the straight. He's pulled up next to the pits and is going nowhere.
Because, Mike, I say back straight, it really is nothing like a straight. No. It goes left and right and left again.
Now, while this battle's going on between Jimmy Richards and Peter Brock, closing on them is Greg Hansford in the ANZ car. Oh, he's sideways there. But they'd love all this. They could handle all this all day.
Yes, Brock and Richards would know each other's game pretty well.
Jim's waved Brock past.
Yeah.
Now, whether that means he's got a problem in his car, it doesn't look like that, but I guess he's admitting that the Brock is quicker and been all over him, and he's done the right thing to let him past. I wonder, will he do the same with Hansford?
There's Andrew Bagnall. He's okay. It looks like he had something of a fire in the car, but it's been extinguished. He's all right.
A fiery day for the Blast Dynamics team.
There's Brock. He's in 4th place now. Dick Johnson is the race leader from Tony Longhurst and John Bow. Peter Brock, Jim Richards, and look at Greg Hansford.
Is Hansford making a run? Jim's going to make him fight for maybe a lap or so. You never get it easy. So Brocky's made terrific recovery. Come up and put the pressure back on Jimmy Richards. Meanwhile, the top banana with those trendy looking shades reaches the top of Motorcraft Hill in the Shell Ultra High Sierra, and he has a good buffer over the field.
And looking good too, keeping the car straight, and he's used the gap.
5 up on Tony Longhurst. That is a nice gap, and a race that's been shortened from 60 to 30 minutes.
Johnson lapping at about 56 seconds pace at the moment. Qualifying pace, of course, was 54.06.
Conditions, I would think, probably be better now than they were earlier when they tried to run the race initially. A little cooler.
Yes, certainly, particularly with the turbo cars and their heat problems. You know, the extra coolness in the late afternoon is helping them.
Greg Hansford, as I said earlier, subbing for Alan Moffat, who's away overseas in the ANZ Sierra, doing a good job. He was the driver who was just able to miss the major prank that happened earlier in the day. The race had to be abandoned. He skipped through when they were all slipping and sliding everywhere, and is doing a good job filling in for Alan Moffat in the number 9 car.
Car suffering from a slight understeer problem, according to Hansford. He said, I'll be up there early on. He said, but if you see me drop back after about the first 10 or 15 laps, you'll know what the problem is.
Yes, it seems that Jimmy Richards has just slipped out of reach again. And now that with the back straight to come, where Jim is so quick, it's going to be a very hard job for Hansford to get him.
Coming down beneath the bridge again. Richards manhandles the Nissan GTSR Turbo. They come by to put a lap on Gerald Kay and the Jag Parts Commodore. Gerald, one of the consistent campaigners in the championship, privateer. He's doing his best to try and stay out of harm's way and give these guys a fair run, which he does. Now, providing he doesn't shut out Hansford at the same time. Jimmy Richards, 41 years of age, from Melbourne, driving Nissan this year. The list of his titles: 85, 87 Touring Car Championship, New Zealand title 70, 71, Bathurst co-driver winner 78, 79 and 80, and currently third in championship points on 21. Jimmy Richards. We've been following him in the Nissan, battling along here with Greg Hansford in the ANZ Banking Sierra. It didn't take the leaders long to come up on the slower cars.
Oh, so quickly. Yep. Yeah. And with a narrow circuit like this, it's always difficult. You've got to second guess them.
They all get through John Faulkner. There's Freddie Gibson, team manager for Nissan.
Absorbed in this battle between Jim Richards and Greg Hansford, and I guess keeping an eye out for George Fury. We haven't seen much of George this weekend. He did qualify in the top 10. There's George, yeah, just coming around to the top of the straight now, about 30, 40, 50 metres behind his teammate Richards. The number 3 car being driven by George Fury today. It'll be its last race with George at the wheel. The team are debuting a new car for George in the next round at Wanneroo in Perth in 2 weeks' time. And as of Mallala, in 3 weeks from now, the Nissan team will be running 3 cars for every round of the Touring Car Championship, with Mark Scaife in the car now being run by George Fury.
Chris Landon there in the Bow Repairs car.
Jim's not having a lot of joy with traffic, but I've got the feeling he's just starting to close on Brocky again.
Hansford a little closer this time.
He's working very hard at the motor car.
Yes. Last year, of course, Glenn Seaton and George Fury running for Nissan. The car was something to behold here in full flight. It certainly wasn't handling, and at least it is a little more respectable this year. But Greg Hansford, that's as close as he's been for the last 5 or 6 laps. Coming down beneath the bridge yet again. To the top of Motorcraft, coming down the hill. And it must be frustrating for Greg, because he looks like he's got the whole thing just about set up, and then all of a sudden Jim just pulls out that 20 metres.
Yes, he's going to have a go on the outside here, but I don't know. It's going to be, yes, he's going to cross him. Well, that's a good one.
That was a good pass. So that put Hansford on the move in the ANZ car. Whether or not he'll be able to do one better and haul in Peter Brock is not that far ahead of them. In fact, Brock just exits there as Hansford comes out of the carousel.
Well, I guess at this point of time, Freddie Gibson would be a little disappointed. I know that he thought that his cars would run a little stronger than we're seeing today. He was pretty confident today. Freddie said the car was working very well, and they had a very good Yokohama combination for the season. But maybe the extra temperature has changed things. The lack of temperature,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Start finishing straight yet again, Peter Brock. As we take the Dulux Auto Colour race cam. Bagnall's car parked off to the right. Brocky's number 1. Mort just looks on.
Yes.
Passive. An opportunity, perhaps, Alan, to talk us around this circuit as we take our race cam shots.
Well, one thing that comes straight to notice is the way Peter's head's bobbing around so much. These motor cars are set up very hard. The circuit is bumpy. And that's the sort of beating that his body is taking all the way around, and that's the sort of scene, or that's his place of work, his office, where he's got to be so precise and so in touch with a motor car. And when you're getting thrown around that much in a motor car, it's not easy. But this is one with a reverse camber coming out of the corner. It's very easy to slip off the road. You'll notice him keeping it so much to the right. And this is the important corner on the circuit because it involves the run onto the straight. The wheel spin coming from the 530 odd horsepower and difficult to keep the thing straight. This is a bumpy, very fast corner. Probably the fastest corner on the mainland. Back to second for the carousel. And it's a matter of holding the car in so you can get the power down on the way out. But you see again, a little oversteer, and look at him being thrown around.
Well, here's a man who is running in second at the moment, trying to peg back that 5-second deficit to race leader Dick Johnson. Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges Sierra, number 25. Started off with fire and brimstone coming through the field.
Coming up, just about 22 laps completed now, Mike. 4 seconds still the gap between first and second. Dick Johnson and Tony Longhurst. John Bow still in third place, followed by Peter Brock. Then Greg Hansford is fifth, having overtaken Jim Richards in sixth place. Fury seventh. Neville Crichton is in eighth spot in the second of the Benson and Hedges cars, followed by Colin Bond. And then rounding out the top 10 is Chris Lambden in the first of the Commodores, but he is 1 lap down on the leading cars.
There's a case in point there of how we've seen some of the more experienced drivers pulling aside and letting the fast guys through. That fella certainly made life just uncomfortable, and you'll find that the Johnson's lead is probably blown out to something like about 6.5 seconds.
Just
because
yes.
He was held up unnecessarily.
Yes, just on a couple of corners it can happen that quickly.
Coming up to put a lap, John Faulkner. Leaves plenty of racing room. That's the difference. Bondi going through, Gerald Kay, and Nobaloni Tony. There's John Bow, and here's our race leader, Dick Johnson, in 17.
5 seconds is the gap now, mate.
Well, it's blown back out again after Tony had done all that good work and was working on pulling him back in, but it hasn't really happened that way. Here comes Johnson down to Hungry Corner. Let's recap the positions for you on our Caltex race score. Race leader is Dick Johnson in the Shell Sierra. Second spot, Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges car. Third is Bow. Fourth, Brock. And fifth now, Greg Hansford. Back onto the start finishing straight. Dick Johnson, car number 17, leads. But look, getting just a touch closer.
Yes.
Is Tony Longhurst in car number 25.
We've had 23 minutes of racing in a scheduled half-hour race.
Johnson floats it out of the carousel. Driven a superb race, Johnson. Paced himself really well.
Black mark on the road coming off his left rear tyre and coming out of that corner. It's, I mean, it's only got some 7 odd minutes to go, I think, but it's certainly starting to show that his tyres are a little distressed. And here's Hansford right up close with Brock.
Once again, we take the Dulux Auto Colour race cam in Peter Brock's car as Hansford closes beneath Dunlop Bridge, heading down to the left-hander at Hungry Corner. So the race is always interesting here at Lakeside, but this one, the 30-minute Take 3 version, is starting to tighten up as we get down to the business end of the afternoon. Greg got a little loose that time. As Alan mentioned before, that reverse camber coming off that corner, he just slipped off the crown of the road then. He's picked it up again nicely. But he needs everything working for him to be able to get Brock.
Hansford has gone right away from Jim now, and I guess now Peter's performing the 16-foot Sierra width version. It's going to be a very hard job to get past him.
Great effort by Greg Hansford when you consider that he doesn't get in the car all that often. This is the first outing this year, the first run since, well, I guess Bathurst, is it?
Certainly, yes. And these are not easy motor cars to come to terms with.
This is where the real scrap of the race is. Longhurst still that 5 seconds in arrears. I think we became confused with those two Benson and Hedges cars. In fact, it was Dick earlier that just put a lap on Neville Crichton.
Yes.
Once again, Greg Hansford trying to set him up for a pass down through the kink.
This, I guess, is the particular feature of racing that he's going to find hard, not being doing as many miles. He hasn't driven the car, as Gary said, for some time, and it's that little edge of the overtaking manoeuvre that maybe the confidence is not there to have a charge at Brocky, just through lack of miles.
And the fact the boss would like to come back and still have the car intact.
Oh, that's pretty certain.
Rocky comes through Hungry Corner, once again coming up to Somariva's BMW. Honest Joe leaves him enough room there on the inside. Greg Hansford takes advantage of that as well as they come down the other side of Motorcraft.
Up at the head of the pack, Dick Johnson, of course, still leading and edging out ever so slightly on Tony Longhurst to over 5 seconds now, 5.18 seconds. But there's not a cigarette paper between these two.
Little loose that time, the tail end of the ANZ car, but he's still right in the firing line behind Brock Sierra.
Gerald Kay tucked in behind them, enjoying the action and enjoying the view.
While all of this is going on, Dick Johnson is still out in front there.
About 3 minutes of racing left in this race by our calculations.
And again, we have Sierra, 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 5 straight.
Well, looked very promising early in the day for the Nissan team. Things have gone well for Johnny Bower. Up to third in the 18 car, the backup car to Dick Johnson, or the second car from the team, I should say. Here comes John down to left-hander at Hungry Corner. He's coming up to put a lap on Colin Bond, who really hasn't had the best of weekends in the Haltex machine. Put on a new engine management system, and Cole said he'd be glad when the weekend's over. I think Brocky will be glad when this weekend's over too,
Yes,
or this race is over.
It's a very wide Sierra.
Well, if Johnny Bower gets past Colin Bond, and I don't doubt that he will, there'll be only 8 cars on the front-running lap.
After only 30 minutes.
That's right, and those 8 cars are Dick Johnson, Tony Longhurst, John Bower, Peter Brock, Greg Hansford, Jimmy Richards, George Fury, Neville Crichton.
Yes. This type of circuit, Gary, if your car is not, at worst, 90% right, they are terrible to drive around here.
Hansford getting very close again.
The top banana still leads, trying to break a 7-year drought here at Lakeside Raceway.
Approximately 2 minutes of racing left.
They'll probably be able to squeeze in a couple of laps. I think most of the teams will be glad when the checkered flag falls here this afternoon. It's been a different type of motor race. All the dramas of the day. The accident-shortened third round of the Touring Car Championship. This has really been a sprint. Behind one of the Toyotas.
It's difficult also when the game plan changes so much as it has today, with coming from a 60-minute race to a 30-minute race in a lot cooler conditions on a known oily track. It's difficult for the teams to regroup and reorganise and put the right combination out there again. And it's obvious that Dick's boys have done the right job.
Dick may very well be lining up for the last lap here. Just keeping an eye on the clock. Officially there's about 1 minute of racing left, so I would say he may very well get the checkered flag next time round.
Johnson barrels down to the carousel, still holding that 5-second plus advantage over Tony Longhurst and teammate John Bower running in third. Great day for the Shell Team Sierras here at Lakeside. And the crowd warming to give him a huge cheer as well. He's got very, very strong support, as you would imagine, here at Lakeside. The course commentator will probably have to be carried off on a stretcher shortly. He has called this like the Melbourne Cup with Dick Johnson, and has kept the crowd cheering from the time this race started.
Okay, then he may get one more lap.
It'll be pretty tight though. He comes back onto the start finishing straight. Time almost out in this race. Dickie Johnson looking to break the 7-year drought, and I'd say he's probably on his final lap now.
He's at the bottom of the main straight now. Tony Longhurst 5.4 seconds behind him.
Meanwhile, that dice we've been following between Peter Brock and Greg Hansford continues. They come once again down the straight. Past the kink as Johnson heads down to Hungry Corner for the final time. Superbly driven race by Dick Johnson. Queensland fans almost in a frenzy at this stage. The top of Motorcraft.
Yes, they've had a long, hot day too, but it's all going to be worth it for them.
Final corner just about coming up for Dick Johnson. We'll see whether he can squeeze one more out of it inside the time as he heads down the start finishing line. The checkered flag is ready. Johnson takes it. Breaks the Lakeside Hoodoo. First win here in 7 years. Second spot will go to Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges car. Third will go to John Bow. About to come in, and looking back behind them, it looks like Peter Brock is going to pick up 4th place over Greg Hansford. Here they come out of the corner, and that's the way they go to the line. Hansford ready to make a lunge, but won't make it. Brock will pick up 4th. 5th will go to Hansford. And a good finish there. Jim Richards probably back in 6th spot. Great win to Dick Johnson, round number 3. And a smile from ear to ear here today at Lakeside.
Well, that'll put him in the lead in the Touring Car Championship. 2 wins out of 3 rounds so far. John Bow clearly in 2nd place now in the championship. Dick Johnson the winner, Tony Longhurst 2nd, John Bow in 3rd place.